Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Under the Sun, the podcast. You're talking to Tony Ema. Okay, you're not talking to me. Let me stop. See, this is what I get by trying to just like be crazy when I start an episode. I'm very chill. And I think that was a really great way to humble me and be like, just be yourself because you suck at being someone else. Hi, guys. How are you? How are you doing? I realized that was a very abrupt beginning. So we're gonna be calm now. I promise I'm not crashing out, even though my entire podcast setup has traumatized me. If you follow me on Instagram, you're very well aware of what happened last Monday or rather last Sunday, when I fully thought that I recorded an entire episode, 40 freaking minutes of me yapping, y'all. Y'all think I love to talk? You're right. I do love to talk. But I don't love to talk that much. Do you know the absolute horror and just feel I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a feeling, when your stomach just drops and you're kind of like, nah, you're kidding. This can't be real. Like there has to be a smidge of an audio somewhere. Maybe it was half the session. I really told myself, okay, maybe half of it didn't record, like deluding myself when I fully know that I record in one sitting. I don't do half parts, so I don't know why I thought. I don't know, guys, but it's been a minute. I think I've been gone for 2 weeks and I apologize. That was definitely not my intention. And there's no excuses if I'm being real. Life just happened and I just got swept up. And I've just been lacking, to be honest. This episode that I'm recording is going out late because I just decided to give myself a break. And to be real, that is something I struggle with. And I've been having conversations with friends about it in terms of like, what does it mean to take a break? Do you deserve a break? And I'm a big fan of scheduled breaks. Like I'm very much the person who's like, I've been scheduled, like I've been given a holiday, I've been given spring break, I've been given this slated time to relax. And so I don't have an excuse or I don't have a good reason to relax until that time. And I'm trying to reorient my mindset now that I'm moving into the season where it's like you're very much in control of your life and how much time you like get to prioritize yourself and take care of yourself. It's never going to be like school anymore. It's never going to be like, hey, you have this entire time to grind and we're going to give you these, couple of days to get yourself together. I'm going to have to be discerning. And I haven't been the most discerning, if I'm being real. It's been really, really tough. And I also worry about the podcast because I want the podcast to do well. I want the podcast to grow. In as much as I love the intimacy that I have with you all who listen, because I just, in my head, there's not that many people. And so it really encourages me to be honest and allows me to have that freedom. It's like, if I'm putting myself out there, I might as well put myself out there. You know what I mean? And for everything that I've seen in terms of creation, content creation, and just putting things out into the world, one of the biggest themes is about consistency. And I believe in consistency so much. I feel like every success that I've had in my life is God rewarding my commitment to remaining consistent to something. And so whenever I miss a week, whenever I miss an upload, I feel incredibly guilty. And it's really hard for me to take a step back without overdoing it because I'm like, well, I've fallen short, so I might as well. But and at the same time, I'm kind of just like, okay, I got to get back to it. And sometimes, I've recorded at times when I'm like extremely tired and I listen back and I'm like, this is subpar. Like you don't want people to have this in their ears. So I really had to take a step back, prioritize my body, like sleep. The week before last, I was getting terrible sleep, just absolutely abysmal. I was working on building this website and it really took it out of me. I wasn't sleeping well. It was really like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I stopped going to the gym, like was barely eating, wasn't talking to anyone, wasn't even scrolling on social media. Guys, I was so locked in and just so stressed about the project because I wanted everything to be perfect that I didn't have time to even go on Instagram and just be nosy and be like, oh, people are sending me reels. Let me go check them out. Didn't even do that. So yeah, it's been a tougher week. I'm gonna catch you guys up really quickly, but if I haven't said it already, because I don't remember, thank you so much for letting me into your ears today. I hope that this thing is recording. So, first thing I want to start off is from the top. My mom's birthday was actually the weekend before the episode that never was in the last week of March. I hope that makes sense. I don't know. I kind of just said that sentence really weirdly. But yeah, my mom's birthday was in March. So happy belated, mommy. I love you. If you know me in person or you're just someone who's spoken to me, and honestly, if you've listened to any other episodes of the podcast, you would know that I love to talk about my mom. It's my everything. Like that's my Pookie. Like she is a phenomenal human being. I love her. She annoys me. Sometimes I feel like I will never understand that woman, but I am in awe of her. I ended up going to a retreat on her birthday. So it was really just a time of me praising God, being with other believers, like fellowshipping. And even though the message wasn't really related to my mom in any way, because it was still her birthday, I still find myself thinking of her and how she raised me and how that has shaped my perspective of the world and my lifestyle. So yeah, in honor of that, it was the episode was going to come out like right after her birthday, and so I was going to give a little tribute, but even though it's past now, the dust has settled, I love a good excuse to talk about my mom and to hype her up. So, 3 things off the top of my head that I really love about my mom that I'm going to share with y'all are: one is her absolutely fearless energy. At her core, my mother is one of the most least fearful people I've ever met in life. She dreams and ridiculously big. In my head, it's kind of like the sky's the limit when it comes to what she believes that she can achieve and that the people she cares about can achieve. And she's unabashedly herself, and she's very opinionated as well. I think I get it from her. But she's really, that attitude to life, and seeing her live that out in real time as I was growing up. I've never told my mom, I want to do this. And she's like, you can't, or that's not going to happen. Or, that gave me so much self-esteem. Like that boosted my self-confidence so much. And it really made me believe in myself, even when I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do what I was trying to do. So that's one thing I love and admire about her. I try to bring that energy into my life, into projects, into all the things that I want for my life, because I'm like, I can be delusional. Like she's giving me that space to be quote unquote delusional about things that I want to accomplish. And yeah, I feel like that's a really invaluable thing. A lot of people don't get that. At my core, I don't think my personality is necessarily that way. I really think that mindset, when I do have it, is heavily influenced by her. And I am incredibly grateful for that. Another thing that, honestly, I don't even know if I should say this, because she listens to this podcast sometimes. And she's going to hear this and think that this is an invitation. Mommy, if you're listening to this, this is not an invitation for you to keep sending more. But she does this thing where she sends me memes, and she sends me things that is her humor that she thinks are funny. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes they're really, really funny. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't understand this. I don't know what I'm supposed to laugh about. But I love the fact that I'm the person that she wants to send memes to. These days, I've been incredibly aware of how beautiful and how cherished my relationship with my mom is, and how a lot of people don't have that. And so I've started to really appreciate the littler things, especially that I'm not living with my mom. I'm not right in front of her, but we still find ways to connect. And even though our relationship isn't perfect and she gets mad at me, I get mad at her, there's this bond that we just nothing can get in the way of. And it manifests in a lot of different ways. But the biggest thing is I feel like, give or take, I'm her person and she's mine. So, how people are talking about my man, my man, my man, my mom, my mom, my mom. Okay. I don't play about her. And the fact that she thinks of me when she sees things, and I'm the person she wants to share that joke with, or I'm the person that she's gonna want to call for no reason. Like sometimes she just calls me and she's like, I just want to hear your voice. Like that is an underrated thing to have in one's life. We need to normalize that. Like someone who loves calling people. Honestly, if I'm calling a person, it's probably because I need them to like answer me like now. Like I don't have the patience to wait, or I must really like you. And I must think that you're just like someone I can yap with for no reason. Or I may have just noticed that your communication style is better suited to talking on the phone, and I'm willing to just like make that extra effort. But I really think that in all relationships, it's a really special thing to have someone or a couple of people that you feel comfortable enough to call whenever and for absolutely no reason, and have a conversation with them. I always feel super honored when any one of my friends just call me and just be like, hey, I just want to talk to you. I just want to yap. Like, I'm not doing nothing. I have nothing to discuss. I just wanted to talk to you. I think that's a really sweet thing. That's something my mom does every once in a while, occasionally. And I feel super honored that I still have that level of connection with her, even though I'm growing up and leading my own life and she's leading her own life. So, okay, I've spent 15 minutes yapping about my mom. Love that. But in other news, obviously I kind of fell off, guys. Like I really felt like in the past 2 weeks I've been in my flop era when it comes to like health and wellness. I didn't do anything. I think the only thing I attempted to do was to be more mindful about my nutrition. And I really think that that being the one thing that I had to focus on was really helpful, because now I'm even like more aware of it. But at the same time, it's also just like, this is one of the aspects of health and wellness or fitness in general that I struggle with the most. And it's so frustrating because everyone knows that nutrition is literally 80% of your battle when you're trying to achieve a certain look or just be healthy in general. Like you could do minimal exercise, but if you have your diet down to a T, you're basically fine. I've gotten to that point where it's like going to the gym is therapeutic for me. I enjoy it. Walking, going outside, like moving my body in general is something that doesn't take me much convincing. But the chocolates get me. I'm not even a candy person. It's just chocolate. Like I love cookies. I love like peanut butter covered things. So being able to focus on that, because I wasn't expending my brain power on thinking, okay, what workouts am I doing? And just like eating mindlessly because I'm like, I'm so hungry, I just want to eat something, is helpful. And I'm really trying to keep that same energy, be more mindful moving forward. But other than that, I kid you not, I sat in front of a laptop like 90% of the past 2 weeks. Just like always in front of a laptop, always going through a spreadsheet, always writing code for something. And yeah, not gonna lie, guys, that was tough. That grind, it was really satisfying at the end when I kind of finished my project. So that happened. And then one thing that really got me thinking was when I was doing the project, I realized that I'm someone who has perfectionist tendencies. And guys, it's a blessing and a curse. I don't think it's a flex to be a perfectionist, if I'm being real. Like if I had a job interview and someone asked me like, what is your biggest weakness or what do you think your weakness is? I'm not going to want to say I'm a perfectionist. I don't think that's like a weakness I even want to advertise. The way it bit me in my butt this past week, or like this past 2 weeks actually, is actually insane. So I'm working on a project and half of my crash out moments were really just because I noticed a single tiny detail that most people will not notice unless I tell them it's there. And then I agonize over fixing it, but I can't figure out what line of code applies to that specific thing. But I can't rest until I fix that specific thing. Guys, I spent like 30 minutes obsessing over alignment of one element. That is crazy. I have never wished to be one of those people that goes, if it's functional enough, it's fine, more in my life. And it got me thinking that sometimes one just needs to look at the bigger picture and call it a day. Not saying submit subpar stuff, or not saying like you're not going to want to put out the best you can do. But if you're looking at the bigger picture and you're noticing that there's one little inconsequential thing that does not require as much energy as you're putting towards it, but you're doing that and it's costing you precious time that you could be putting towards something else, you need to rethink. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I fixed it and I was very satisfied, but I could have spent that time so much more efficiently and still had time to fix it. And honestly, in the longer run, like for presentation purposes, it wasn't going to make or break my presentation. And I think I just burned the midnight oil so many times because then I ended up having to put in more work to accomplish the things that were going to make or break my presentation. So, I mean, one can argue maybe perfectionism isn't the problem. It's really just about prioritizing. But I think the fact that I was a lot like a perfectionist in that moment, or in those moments, or multiple, unfortunately, that is what caused me to not prioritize efficiently. Another thing I was thinking about last week, and also, honestly, I got exposed to this line of thought when I was in my Victorian literature class, and we were talking about Victorian literature and how the Victorian literature was like published during that period. There was a lot of serialized works and people were just kind of like hanging on by a thread. Think back to the days where you had to wait for weekly episodes of your favorite show. I mean, that's not really a thing anymore. These days it's just shebang. It's on a streaming platform and they expect you to binge it all. But, we were talking about in the context of Victorian literature that it's completely the opposite. Everything was serialized. Everyone was kept on some sort of cliffhanger. And now we live in an attention economy. That was the phrase I believe that was used. And I found that so interesting. I've never heard that phrase before until, that particular conversation. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, that is so true. And as a quote unquote content creator, I have never felt the pressures and been more aware of the fact that we live in an attention economy more in my life. I mentioned earlier in the episode that I've been having some anxieties about the podcast, especially when I can't necessarily dial in and stay consistent and still give like lively recordings, because I'm afraid that my very small community is going to see me as wishy-washy and inconsistent and stop listening. And even though to a very large extent, I am recording my podcast for myself, it's like a personal journal at the end of the day, I am very grateful for the people who give their time and their attention to me and to listen to me yap about all the things that I like to yap about. And I'm so excited whenever I get to have conversations that stem from the content on this podcast. So it's a little weird for me because I'm also always thinking about the fact that I need to keep the attention I've managed to capture. And the fact that there's a scarcity of attention in this day and age is very terrifying. So, and I also think that for a lot of creators, everyone, that is what people are trying to cater to. That's what people are trying to master. Everyone's studying attention economics at the end of the day. They're treating human attention as a scarce commodity. They're trying to figure out how they can funnel information and package information to maximize, the amount that they can get. Like literally Google attention economy. There are so many theories and research being done, in different disciplines such as like psychology, cognitive science, economics, actually, that have proven that humans, we don't have that big of a brain, if I'm being real. And everyone these days is fighting for that, is fighting for space, is fighting for real estate in our brain. Like we all want to live rent free in someone's head at the end of the day. Every content creator, every marketer, every business is trying to live rent free in people's brains. Everyone is in competition, whether or not you're kind of being altruistic about your content or not, or whether it's more so for your self gratification. Like there's some deeper subconscious level where it's like we're all vying for that attention. We're all trying to we're all trying to game the market. So yeah, that, and once I realized that, and once I started to think about that, like that's what actually helped me put things in perspective when it came to how I feel about my podcast and why I always feel so guilty, and I always feel like, oh my god, I haven't put up an episode, this is horrible, like, the world is ending. It's not. I'm just very conscious of the fact that maybe no one's gonna care, and deep down I want people to care, or at least I want the people that do care to not stop caring. So I don't know. What does that say about me? Am I an attention seeking person? I don't know. Maybe. But right now that's just the truth. So take that as me just being real. Yeah. This is so funny because like nothing I'm talking about right now is the same as what I was talking about in the last episode. Like I fully kind of wanted to just re-record what I had recorded the last time, but I don't script my episodes. And it's very different from how I used to run the podcast. I used to have like a whole script and a whole like flow. Now we're on FaceTime. That is the vibes. This is how I talk to my friends. This is how my thoughts ramble. This is kind of the cadence of conversation. So yeah, I don't know. This is the part where you guys say something. But at the end of the day, like I'm such a pros and cons person. I love me a good list. So thinking about the attention economy, like it's not always a bad thing, even though there are negative effects. Like, for example, like there's a lot of mental health problems that I feel like come from that. Because when you get to the point where you care so much about what other people think about your content or feedback from media in general that is negative, one thing I feel like I'm really trying to be conscious about is like not associating my self-worth or how good my content is, or like to take things personally by how it's received by the world. I could have said that way more eloquently, but I don't know. It's it's like social media addiction. You know, like that's, and I love how I was trying to say like, oh, it's not all bad and I'm talking about the bad part, but like that's the biggest thing that I can think of that like is horrible about the fact that we're living in a world where everyone is craving attention, especially from media, and everybody just wants to be seen, especially creators. Like even the people that created the apps are all about maximizing engagement. That's literally how they make money. And this also reminds me of this documentary that I ended up watching for like a sociology class once upon a time. I think I was a freshman. And it's called The Social Dilemma. It's about how the algorithms from search engines and social media platform, how they feed off of user generated content, negatively affect users because they're constantly striving to maximize people's engagement, and that leads to addiction, and that leads to people being depressed when the attention they receive are not always all positive, or if they're trying so hard and vying so hard for the attention but they're not getting it. And we can go into like, you know, amplification of like misinformation and data privacy violations and things like that, but there are pros. And the pros I feel like is just the fact that we can share information so freely and so quickly without having to go to jump through hoops. We can bring attention to the things that matter to us. In this time, like with my podcast, I try to talk about the things that matter to me. I'm literally sitting in a dorm room with a laptop and a mic, no fancy setup. The walls are not padded. This is not a studio, but I have power. That is so cool. If we think about so many movements that have sprung up and gained traction on social media, like that's when I'm like, if this goes away, it's gonna be tough. Like I would never have known about this community or these injustices or even these wins. Like when I see just positive stuff that I'm like, I would never have learned this or known this without media. I'm so grateful. I always say like very jokingly, like God knew what he was doing when he made me Gen Z. Like when he allowed me to live in this day and age and grow up with this, because I'm like, I can't imagine living in the dark ages and not knowing anything and not being able to access information the way I can. So yeah, I really think it's, it all comes down to the intangibles, and even that in itself, like I said, it's pros and cons. I read a whole Wikipedia article and there's a section that like talks about the intangibles. So like think about the way that you can personalize your content, the things like authenticity, things that you can't really measure, but they still matter, you know? And I'm wondering, I mean, for me right now, I've thought about it so much as a creator rather than a consumer, but I am still a consumer by a lot. I'm not literally like, this is the only content I make. So I think it'll be interesting to evaluate the attention economy from a consumer's perspective. I want to do that with someone though. I don't want to talk about that all by myself, and I don't want to talk about it in this episode because it would be super long. But I think my point is that at the end of the day, we should all be consuming media and contributing to media because there's a true love for the freedom it affords us, not because of what we're trying to get from it in the sense of like validation or deduction of self-worth. I think there's a real power in being present and being connected to the people around you. There's a real power in being where your feet are, rather than always striving to desperately hold on to an audience or to the attention of others. When at the end of the day, when you fall asleep at night, it's just you or you and your family. Yeah, not to be depressing, but that's all I got for now. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You can find me on Instagram at I am Toni Iman. It is spelled IAMTONIIMAN. And please leave a rating of 5 stars. That is the preferred number. 4 stars is acceptable because I understand that I'm not perfect. This podcast isn't perfect, but we're getting there and we're striving to be better, if not for the fact that I just like to be good at what I do. But I hope you guys have an amazing week, and that I would hopefully talk to you guys again next week, Monday.